Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to Silverstone and the fourth night of racing in the VRRC Civic Cup. A week ago, were racing on the tight, twisting, undulating confines of the Alton Park circuit in Cheshire. This week's challenge could not be much more different. It's the fast-flowing, ultra-high-speed Silverstone National Circuit, which is going to present a very different challenge for the drivers tonight, but hopefully some really good racing. It's certainly got all of the ingredients to provide perhaps the best racing of the season, so strap yourselves in for what is set to be an evening full of door-to-door racing action. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box, not joined by Jack Oliphant this week because Jack is off watching some funny sport where they run around hitting balls on a field. Cricket, I think they call it. Half as exciting as what we're going to be seeing tonight. Instead, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Dave Marshall, who will be familiar to many of you here on the VRRC. Dave, welcome back to the comms box.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, I've got to try and remember how to do this side of it now instead of doing the race directing. But yeah, as you said, absolute pleasure to be in. I think you bang on with what you said as well. Silverstone really going to provide some very, very interesting racing, and also, for me, a lot of outside chances of drivers who maybe haven't had quite the speed on some of the more technical tracks, as was seen from the previous rounds. But coming here, anyone within about half a second's got a real good chance.
Yeah, it's the fourth of 6 rounds, so the fourth of 6 circuits that we'll race at this season. We've already been to Brands Hatch, Thruxton, Alton Park, as I said a week ago, Silverstone tonight. In a week's time, we go to Croft, which, again, a completely different type of circuit. Fast, yes, but very, very bumpy and quite narrow as well. And then it all rounds out on the Donington Park National Circuit on the 8th of June in 2 weeks' time. And given how tight the championship standings are at the moment, it's highly likely that we're going to have a last round decider at Donington Park, so you will not want to miss that. A circuit that always does produce really good racing. I said that it's tight in the points. I wasn't lying either. Scott Bugner just 1 point clear of Max Edmondson at the moment at the top of the championship table. They've had 2 slightly different seasons, actually. In the 3 weeks that we've had so far, Max Edmondson has qualified on pole for every week. He's won race 1 every week, but has yet to get a podium in a reverse grid race, whereas Scott Bugner is rarely off the podium. His worst finish all season so far is a 5th place finish in the second race a week ago at Alton Park. But he's yet to win a race, so Edmondson's been doing all of the winning, whilst Bugner has just been sort of slowly but surely picking up the points, and that gives him that 1 point advantage arriving here at Silverstone. They're both a little way ahead of Max Bird in 3rd position, the Accelerate Motorsport driver 8 points ahead of Joel Lask, with Elliot Dalton Ayres by far the best of the HFT racing trio. Nicky Taylor having only joined the championship a week ago at Alton Park. Kyle Felvers has been fairly vocal about the fact that front-wheel drive isn't necessarily his cup of tea. You can see him there languishing towards the back end of the top 10. But Dave, I mean, what a season we've had so far, and it could not be much more finely poised in the points.
No, you're definitely right there. And as you said, spread all the way through the championship tail. It's not just a battle for, 1st, 2nd or 3rd place. I think there's multiple times where drivers are within 1 point of the driver in front. And also, there's a few drivers on the timing sheets that really, for me, are going to really throw this championship table a little bit of race. So you've got the likes of Max Bird, who is looking very, very quick indeed around this track. And you can see, sat there in 3rd place, he can do some serious damage here tonight. You're right in what you said about Bugner. A bit of a Turkington, I think is fair to say, in British touring cars. Super consistent finisher. Let's hope we don't give him a commentator's curse there. Edmondson with the outright pace. I don't think that's going to be the key round here. I think the key is going to be all about racecraft, and we've seen how good Nicky Taylor is at that indeed.
Yeah, exactly. And Nicky was into the top 10 on his debut in the championship a week ago. At Alton Park, it was Max Edmondson, though, who did actually manage to score more points than anybody else, courtesy of that race 1 win from pole position. He then had his best reverse grid race of the season so far, with a 4th place finish in race 2. Scott Bugner had a 2nd in race 1 and a 5th in race 2, so he was 1 position behind Edmondson in both races, and that just allowed the Edmondson, the man 2nd in the championship, to outscore him slightly. Will Redford then was the reverse grid race winner, I think, finished 9th in race 1, and that meant that he was the 3rd highest scoring driver for the night, whilst it was Elliot Dalton-Ayres who was awarded the driver of the round. Dalton-Ayres really impressing with a solid drive to 3rd place in the opening race, so he got the driver of the round award, well deserved. But yeah, Dave, those 3 drivers I think on screen, all of them likely to be championship contenders come Donington Park in 2 weeks time. And if they are up there contending inside the top 5 positions in the championship, there are some pretty tasty prizes up for grabs for them.
Yeah, there is indeed. So as you can see, first place prize very kindly provided by AGON, by AOC. One of their brilliant 34-inch curved gaming displays, absolutely fantastic. We've just done a few sim builds with their monitors and they are absolutely fantastic, exactly what you need for the best gaming possible. Second place prize, one of our rigs, SimRace 3's SR3 chassis, super rigid, exactly what you need for them, direct drive setups, and really sturdy and very nice quality as well. Third place prize, 2 tickets to TCR meeting in 2022. So I think you can agree, Andy, there, TCT this year has been absolutely fantastic, so that's going to be an absolute spectacle to go and see. Fourth place prize, 2 hours online driver coaching. I believe that'll probably be with myself. And then also Power Maxed Racing has sent us a valet bucket for 5th place prize, as well as a valet kit for driver of the round as well. So a nice incentive for them drivers to really try and put a good performance on out there and just impress us visually on track.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, here at the VRRC, we do these things properly. Some really good prizes up for grabs for anyone who can get into the top 5 in the championship come the end of the season. Now, that ain't going to be easy to do. It's incredibly tight in that middle portion of the championship table. Right then, before we dive into the qualifying action for tonight, let's take a look, shall we, at this deceptively tricky Silverstone National Circuit.
So here we are towards the line at Silverstone National for round 4 of the Maximum Networks Civic Cup powered by VRRC. Turn 1, quite a hard initial brake, but rolling off quick to carry the speed through the corner, but not too much that we can't get a super early pickup on that throttle. And then down towards Maggots and Beckett's, pretty infamous corner at Silverstone. Really quite a difficult corner to try and find this apex down to 3rd gear, keep looking in that air pillar and pick it up nice and early and let the car just run nicely outwards, not trying to wind too much lock on there, otherwise you'll lose a lot of speed down this straight. For all this track is only about 4 corners long. For me, it's one of the most difficult to make your time, and making qualifying super important here. Now down to Brooklands, yet again 3rd gear, trying to trail brake it towards the apex and then pick up that throttle. And same again here into Luffield. Look at that, just holding the brake slightly on all the way until we get to the apex, and really early on the throttle. You can see running a little bit wide there on exit, and then we're going to hug the white line all the way towards the finish line and hope that's good enough for pole and qualifying. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday night from 7:15 on VRRC's YouTube, and make sure you give this video a like and subscribe.
Qualifying underway here then on the Silverstone National Circuit for the 4th week of the VRRC Civic Cup. And Dave taking us for a lap of the Silverstone National Circuit there. You know, Dave, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because you look at a map of this place and it looks like the easiest track in the world. It's got about 3 corners. It's got to be about 70% straights and flat out stuff. Actually, to get a really good lap time out of this place is not all that easy to do, and you have to be spot on because it's such a short lap time that the times are always really close. So if you're a 10th off, that could lose you a couple of rows on the grid.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely expect to see drivers possibly battling for this pole by maybe 200ths of a second. It'll be that close. Very, very close on lap times indeed. I see Andy Dorman actually currently have done a 1:06.19, which is only 100th off what the best time was in practice. So Dorman really putting his stamp very early on in qualifying session. But Josh Martin, crucially, a driver who didn't even realise you could change tyre pressures until the start of this round. He's talking to the drivers, and it turns out he's had his tyres overflate for the entire season until he's realised he can put them down. And sure enough, look at the grip he's found. P2 there, only 800ths off pole. So Josh Martin, going to be a real strong contender going into the second half of this championship.
That's fantastic, and a great example, to go slightly off topic for a second, of why it's important if you are competing in, for example, a VRRC championship, to be in the Discord, to chat to the drivers, interact with everyone, because there's so much to learn in sim racing. It's something I've realised over the last 18 months or so. If you just try and go into it blind and sort of make it up as you go along, then you're missing out on an awful lot that could make you and more competitive and make you ultimately a better driver. And Josh Martin learning now one or two things that he can do to improve his pace. It's clearly working, because as you said, he is second fastest behind Andy Dorman, another driver that I know has been tipped for good things this week. Elliot Dalton-Ayres is third, Dave Buki fourth, and Eric Axelson fifth. Now, we're nearly halfway through this session, Dave. That is not the top five I was expecting. You have to go all the way down to 14th place to find Max Edmondson, and even Scott Bugner is only 7th fastest. In fact, he now improves to 3rd place, so that's already slightly out of date, but Edmondson needs to get a bit of a move on. Now, he was a little bit late joining the server tonight, wasn't he, because he had a couple of issues, shall we say, when it came to joining. He's in there now, but perhaps that's affected his pre-event sort of routine. Maybe it's going to take him a bit longer to get up to the speed we expect from him.
Yeah, so definitely, just a bit of inside information. Max Edmondson's actually currently not racing on his simulator. He's gone over to a friend's house because they're testing in Donington or something along them lines. So he's actually in a different house on a different simulator at the moment. So he'll be trying to adjust himself to the different setup, how the wheel feels slightly differently. But also, as he said, just that sort of slightly out of rhythm, jumping into the session really late, so we might not see him quite as quick initially as what he has been at other rounds. But knowing Max, it won't take him long to settle into things, and I imagine the later on this round goes on tonight, he'll be getting faster and faster and more competitive. But that's not what he wants at all for Scott Bugner to be currently P3 over a 10th off pole, his main championship rival.
Yeah, Bugner 1 point ahead of Edmondson. Now, Max Bird is the man third in the championship. He's only 7th fastest at the moment. Joel Lask, who is 4th in the championship, is only 10th. So actually, it seems that those who are doing well in the points are struggling a little bit for raw pace here, with the exception of Scott Bugner, the championship leader. Carl Felvers puts in a lap that puts him 8th fastest. That was a slight improvement, and he makes his way out of Copse Corner then onto another flying lap. The good thing, I suppose, is that you'll get plenty of laps in this qualifying session. And that might well allow some of those drivers who are off to a bit of a slower start in the qualifying session a bit more time to find the ultimate pace. Dave Buki here, he's looking pretty rapid. 5th fastest for him at the moment, whilst Max Edmondson slips now down to 14th place. Now, Max is carrying 10 kilos more ballast. He is now the heaviest car on the grid. He's carrying the maximum 50 kilos of handicap weight. That might be affecting him. It's not so much, Dave, that this circuit is especially difficult to carry the weight at. It's more that, even if it's only costing you a 10th of a second, as we've made the point, that will cost you more positions here than it would on a longer lap, such as Brands Hatch or Alton Park, for example.
Yeah, so it seems like from testing with the weight, it just seems like that extra ballast, so 5th level for Edmondson here, so that's 50 kilograms. Top end speed wise, it's not a lot at all. It's probably only about 1 mile an hour, but it just seems it's that mid-range punch you get coming out of a corner is the real advantage you have with less weight. So the likes of Dorman, even Josh Martin there on 0 and on 1 level weight there, it's just going to have that edge coming out onto that back straight there that we're currently looking at. And that little half a tenth, even a tenth, is worth a lot on a lap that's only, just over a minute long.
Right now, the top 18 are covered by just over 7/10 of a second, which rather proves that point, doesn't it? If you're losing a couple of tenths here and there, it will cost you. Now, Edmondson improves, though, goes 12th fastest. That's a bit more like it. It's still not pole position, but he's only 4.5 tenths off that pole position. At most other circuits, 4.5 tenths off pole could realistically put you on the second row of the grid. So Edmondson really struggling here position-wise, but actually his pace is not all that bad. That was Brad Smith, I think, getting a bit sideways at Copse Corner and taking an interesting line on the exit of the turn. Andy Carroll goes 10th. There he goes through your shot at the high-speed Copse Corner. 1 or 2 coming back out of the pit lane. Looks like the 3 HFT racing drivers are getting themselves together for a bit of slipstreaming qualifying here towards the end of the session. But it still is Andy Dorman who they're all chasing. And Andy has been in the pits for quite some time. So that's some confidence that day. He set the pole position. Doesn't hold pole by a big margin. 88 thousandths of a second over Josh Martin. But Andy, for the time being, happy to sit in the pit lane and wait it out.
Yeah, you know what? That could be a driver that goes, you know what? I've put absolutely everything on the line. I've hooked the lap up and there's nothing more that I can do. Some drivers like to have that sort of, it's not an attitude, but right, I'm going to go and chill, get ready for the race. If someone beats me, fair enough. The only thing I would say is, with this track, you know how important the slipstream can be, Andy. And sometimes you just find yourself lucky out on track, get a bit of slipstream, and you can find half a tenth to a tenth just doing nothing but other than just being a little bit closer to a car in front. So it can have its advantage, but looking at the lap times, honestly, I'd be surprised if anyone can actually pip Dorman there. That's a fantastic lap time, and he's putting a stellar drive there to be P1 that early on as well into qualifying. He posted it almost straight away, so top job, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant effort that, and others try as they might, just can't quite get anywhere near him, or can't quite get near enough to him at least. Max Edmondson, I notice, is back down to 13th place now, just ahead, actually, of a new driver into the championship, George Alp Williams, who is not new to Honda Civic racing by any stretch of the imagination, though. George, a front-runner of the real-world Civic Cup. We've got more and more of these real-world Civic Cup racers coming and having a go of the sim racing series, and George, the latest convert, and I think it's fair to say he's enjoying himself so far.
Yeah, he is definitely, and I think probably a little bit surprised about how close it is. You know, you race in real life, and there's normally a few drivers in and around that sort of 1/10 away margin. But I mean, to be 15th place, Chris Shepherd, only half a second off pole, and he's in 15th place. I mean, it is ridiculously close here, and just shows how important just getting absolutely every ounce of the track right really is, because the difference between half a tenth can cost you about 5 positions.
Well, you said to me off-air before we went live this evening that anyone within half a second of pole position today could probably win the race.
Yeah, I did say that. Yeah.
that means most of the field then basically could probably win the races tonight. I mean, we are in for quite the show, aren't we?
Yeah, so I did a bit of coaching with Nicky Taylor before we went live tonight, and we were racing, and I found about half a second of pace advantage on him, and yet 3-4 laps consistent battling, I just couldn't simply pull away even though I had the pace advantage. So that's what sort of told me that half a second gap, with the way the slipstream is, it's really going to require drivers to pick their battles really closely, and maybe actually this is one of the first times we might see drivers trying to work with each other and pull away in packs rather than everyone just battling outright. Because if everyone battles outright, as I said before, the likes of Chris Shepherd and Brad Smith could very quickly find themselves running right up near the front.
Brilliant shot there from on board with George Alp Williams. He's on slightly cold tyres, having just come out of the pit lane. He's got time for one flying lap before the checkered flag falls, and just a little bit of lift-off oversteer there through Copse Corner. He just had to sort of steer into that a little bit. That'll cost him some speed on the exit, but he heads out of Beckett's, down the Wellington Straight, back towards the left-hander at Brooklands. Just a 2-sector circuit this, because it's so short. You can see in that first sector he is 0.6 of a second down. So that moment that he had through the first corner, Copse has not helped him, and then he leans on the right rear tyre and gets it all wrong, because that right rear tyre will take an awfully long time to warm up. It's only really used once around the whole lap, and that is down at Brooklands Corner, and so it'll take you a good 3 or 4 laps, I'd imagine, to get that right rear into the ideal operating window, and so that's something to watch for at the start of the races if they start going side by side through there on cold tyres. Joel Lask, by the way, one of very few people able to improve his lap time here towards the end of the session. He jumps up into 4th position. Seriously good effort that. That was a number of positions gained, and just at the right time, Dave, because the checkered flag is now out.
Yeah, what a fantastic quali session that has been. Drivers about as close as we could possibly hope for what I hope to be an absolute fantastic race here. And as I said before, what a great job by all the drivers. That is not easy under the pressure these drivers are under to go out and put laps like they are as close together. We couldn't hope for anything more the way this quali's been. And I believe Andy there has just gone on mute. But meanwhile, we're going to try and get a quick word with Andy Dorman after this quick ad break.